Rod Mcguirk, Associated Press window, _taboola equals window, _taboola, push mode, thumbnails C, container, taboola interstitial gallery thumbnails 3, placement, interstitial gallery thumbnails 3, target _type, mix, _taboola, push flush, truths. Australia's Treasurer Scott Morrison addresses reporters outside Parliament House in Canberra, Australia, on Tuesday, May 8, 2018. Morrison is expected to release spending plans with a focus on winning votes at an election due within a year. Australia's Treasurer Scott Morrison addresses reporters outside Parliament House in Canberra, Australia, on Tuesday, May 8, 2018. Morrison is expected to release spending plans with a focus on winning votes at More photo, Rod Mcguirk, AP. Australia's Treasurer Scott Morrison addresses reporters outside Parliament House in Canberra, Australia, on Tuesday, May 8, 2018. Morrison is expected to release spending plans with a focus on winning votes at an election due within a year. Australia's Treasurer Scott Morrison addresses reporters outside Parliament House in Canberra, Australia, on Tuesday, May 8, 2018. Morrison is expected to release spending plans with a focus on winning votes at More photo, Rod Mcguirk, AP. Australia reveals pre-poll plan to balance budget in 2 years. Canberra, Australia, AP. Australia's government said Tuesday it has turned a corner on mounting debt, proposing a plan to give tax cuts to most Australians while balancing the books within 2 years. Treasurer Scott Morrison revealed to Parliament on Tuesday his third annual budget and his last before his Conservative coalition stands for re-election within a year. He promised a modest surplus of $2.2 billion Australian dollars, $1.65 billion in the 2019-20 fiscal year, down from an estimated $18.2 billion deficit in the current year ending June 30. The return to surplus had been expected a year later. Australia recorded a decade of surplus budgets before the global financial crisis in 2008. It has accumulated deficits every year since. The Australia economy is now pulling out of one of the toughest periods we have faced in generations, Morrison told Parliament. As a result of this fiscal discipline, the government has turned the corner on net debt, he said in a budget document. Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull has said he will call an election early next year. But he could be tempted to call an early election if the budget is well received and his Conservative coalition standing in opinion polls improves. The government consistently trails the centre-left opposition Labour Party in polling. The budget measures will need the support of a hostile Senate to take effect. The budget calls for net debt, the sum of financial liabilities less assets, to peak in the current year at 18.6% of GDP, or $341 billion. That's a year earlier than Morrison forecast in his last budget. Gross debt, the value of government securities, was expected to peak next year at 29.4% of GDP, $561 billion, $421 billion, then fall to $532, $399 billion a decade later. The mining boom driven by Chinese demand that kept Australia out of recession during the crisis has gone, although prices for Australian iron ore and coal have recently rebounded. The $1.8 trillion, $1.4 trillion Australian economy is expected to grow by 2.75% in the current fiscal year, then 3% annually for the next 2 years. Unemployment is expected to fall from 5.5% this year to 5.25% for the next 3 years. There has been an upswing in trade globally, especially in our Asian neighbors, a budget document said. Australia's strong links with the Asian region continue to present opportunities for our businesses to export, with our trading partner growth expected to exceed global growth over the next few years, it added. Total government revenue for the next fiscal year is expected to be $486.1 billion, $365 billion, up 6.6% from the current year. Government expenses next year were expected to fall 4.2% from the current year to $488.6 billion, $367 billion. Some critics argue the government should be more aggressive in cutting expenditure and retiring debt. But the government proposes tax cuts for lower and middle-income earners of up to $530, $400 a year at a cost to the budget of $140 billion, $105 billion over a decade. Morrison said the tax cuts showed he respected taxpayers. When too much tax revenue is coming in because the tax system is actually overburdening them, I think it's wrong to punish them for that, Morrison told reporters. The government plans to spend more than $75 billion, $56 billion, on infrastructure projects including road and rail in this decade. The government announced on Tuesday plans to spend $536 million, $402 million, over 5 years on rescue plan for the Great Barrier Reef. It includes programs to reduce fertilizer runoff from farming, remove destructive crown of thorns starfish and fund research into coral bleaching. Environmentalists argue that the funding won't tackle the main threat to the reef, global warming. They're calling for more aggressive action to reduce Australia's greenhouse gas emissions. The government also announced plans to spend $1.3 billion, $970 million, over a decade to help Australia become a global health industry leader in medical technology and pharmaceuticals.